Just because someone is a so-called professional frisbee thrower doesn't mean they still don't throw some shitty discs. I'm sorry, but I don't work at Dunkin' Donuts. There will be no glazing of Calvin Heimburg in this video. Nope, instead I will be ranking every disc in his bag. Everyone loves a good old-fashioned tier list, right? Just like every disc golfer's in the bag, we start with the putters, and I was already disappointed. KC AVRs? Really, Calvin? I guess you're not left with all that many options. But don't even think about saying how it's in glow plastic, like that matters. If it was the JK Aviar, I would have put it in the B tier. Unfortunately, I can't do that. Come on. The Rhino? How am I supposed to say anything good about this overmold illiterate piece of trash? The disc couldn't even win an elementary school spelling bee. How is it allowed in the bag? Sure, you can talk about how it's a slow disc that doesn't require a whole lot of power, and when it lands, there's little skip. But I don't even care about that, because my eyes can't get off that damn Y. I'm throwing it in the D tier. Hopefully that means we can only go up from here. But for some reason, I don't think we're going to be that lucky. Seriously? The fucking AVRX3? How in the world is this guy even good at disc golf? I just can't understand how a person can bag all this trash, yet make it look decent. Imagine if the Disco King started bagging good discs. At least then he wouldn't be handicapping himself. You know what's worse than having an AVRX3 in the bag? Having two. It was already bad enough you had a KC. Now this shit? Even though I'm putting the Toro in the C tier, I don't blame Calvin for bagging it. For him, it's probably the best choice, honestly. But if you can throw whatever you want, don't choose the Toro. Just don't. Although, it is way better than the Pig. I also heard that after Calvin mentioned the special R Pro run, that the price instantly went up. You guys are silly getting a shitty disc in a different plastic, thinking that'll solve all your problems. Maybe you should start with your form, but that's not what I'm here for. Nope, I'm just here to say don't throw that disc unless you collect agates. An Innova sponsored player bagging a Rock 3? I would have never guessed. Clearly I'm lying. What else would he be throwing? Fuck, really? Calvin might be the only person I know who bags the Rock X3. He says he likes it for the flat top, perfect to do more lines off of than Kid Rock. Okay, I might have added that last part, but it's what he was saying with his eyes. Apparently it holds true in a headwind with a more dependable fade. More predictable than an episode of The Simpsons, and they knew about 9/11. When Heimburg has a 168-gram Roadrunner, then I don't want to hear anyone else bitching about something being too flippy. The only thing you can blame is not knowing how to throw a disc correctly. To be fair, he does say it's his roller disc, and he's only really started to bust it out since he hasn't been able to throw forehands. But if you've been paying attention, every tournament on his Instagram, he'll throw this thing on practice rounds and park holes on the stupidest lines imaginable. When my doubles league idea pops off one day, you'll see why giving top level players the ability to throw crazy aggressive lines will produce the best highlights disc golf has ever seen. Just imagine what Simon, Eagle, and AB would do. The Roadrunner belongs in the top tier, a disc that every type of player can bag, from beginners to touring pros. Here's the evidence. Try and tell me any different. All I know is it would be way more exciting than throwing an Eagle. Do people still bag this thing? I feel like it should have stayed in 1999. The only reason Calvin has it in his bag is because he fell in love with it early on in his career. He's already trapped. Nobody else should fall for it. Unless you can tell me about the days of single chain baskets, I don't want to hear you compensating harder than me to every girl I talk to. What the hell is a Vela? Be honest, have you heard of this thing before? To be fair, I was pleasantly surprised with how it was described. Only because it gave me a perfect disc to suggest to all you idiots still throwing an Eagle. It will start a bit more overstable, but nothing those tree hits won't fix. I gotta put it in the B tier, which is still respectable for a disc I have no fucking clue what it is. The next one just deserves it more. And if you're complaining about needing something to push farther since your baby arm can't get it there, just do what every other basic bitch does and get a Thunderbird. As Calvin said, since it's faster, you should be able to get 40 feet farther with the same shots. Hey, don't be mad at me, it's what he said. Although I'm putting it in the S tier, which might shock some of you since I never have a whole lot of good to say about it. But then again, when do I trash it? The worst I say is that it's a more common choice than picking C on a test when you don't know the answers. Speaking of S tier, how can we not talk about the Firebird? This disc is one of the few perfect frisbees out there, which is just now a video I've thought of making, so let me know if you want to see something like that. You already know you'll see the Firebird near the top of that list. There's a reason every open bag pro has like 9 of these. Don't believe me? Go ask any player sponsored by Castoplast, and the only other disc they're probably throwing is something we'll talk about later. Calvin is one of the few players sponsored by Innova that isn't rocking any form of Sexton Firebird. Instead, 4 overstable stock runs, which shows the type of disc golf he plays. Makes sense from someone who doesn't rely on a forehand, but if you're looking for a straighter Firebird that will eventually beat into flippy, get your hands on a Sexton. A dangerous combo that will be more killer than Michael Myers and Halloween. Or if you need the industry standard for overstable 9 speeds, the Firebird is what you're looking for. Stop trying to tell yourself any different. It's hurting more than helping. I will say that since he showed it off, Hucklab dyed stuff is mad overrated. It was cool when I was 15 and they were trying to be the hypebeast of disc golf with their overpriced stuff that was more questionable than stylish. Now I have to see these off-brand ninja stars plastered on people's discs. Also gonna add, the bigger it is, the less cool. The small ones I can get on board with, but not this shit. How do people think this is cool when you have dyes like this out there? And I'm not even just talking since I have a small dick. Who would have thought Calvin would keep himself strapped like Freddy Krueger in an alley?
In the alley with that Draco.
Since the first time I saw Drew throw the Draco, I've been wanting to make that reference. That was 4 years in the making. Hopefully it doesn't get copyrighted. You guys probably assumed since I suck this disc's dick pretty often that the Destroyer would be in the S tier. Well, no. Too many people that have no business throwing this do. So just like most good things in the world, it was ruined by a few bad apples. I'm not going to be too mean though, and will still keep it in the A tier. Mostly because there's not many things I love more in this world than a Destroyer from the used bin. Some people like to rescue dogs. Nah, I'm good. I'll stick to old run Destroyers. I gotta be real though, Calvin doesn't bag that cool of ones. I think that's pretty fair to say, only because he has the easiest dunk in the world when he can come back with this. At least my name's on it. That's a mic drop line, don't get me wrong. Thankfully, there's no way Calvin sees this video, so we're chill. 5 Destroyers in the bag is a sign of a man though, so I do gotta respect it. He's got every base covered as well, from Roller Destroyer to a Bomber disc. It is interesting that he has 2 other discs in case of wind or for a more overstable finish. You know, since that's this disc for most mortals. The Quasar was cool to see only because it's another one of those discs I have no fucking clue what it is. But he did make it seem like it was essentially a boss. Probably is just getting a cut from the Quasar, and he's smart enough to know that his fans will pretty much just throw whatever the hell is in his bag. But yeah, he's got a boss in there too. For shots he needs a quicker fade, but will get similar distance since they are a bit faster than the Destroyer. I do like the boss, and with the cultural impact it's had, deserves to be up in the rankings. You know how many people have bought this thing because it says you can throw it over 1,000 feet? That's what I'm assuming clueless shoppers at Dick's think at least. The Quasar though, I don't know much about it. And since the Vela already got the benefit of the doubt, I'm gonna have to put this one below it. Sorry, but it's only fair. And that's all the discs that Calvin Heimburg is currently bagging. And since I went through all this time ranking each disc, I think it only makes sense to rank his bag as a whole. That way we can see the rankings between different pros as the series goes on. Think of this as the needle drop of disc golf bag reviews. So if you want to see me rank every disc in Anthony Barella's bag, let's get this video to 200 likes. But for Calvin, I'm gonna have to give it a solid 7. When I look at the top 2 tiers, it almost makes me think that this bag couldn't do any wrong. And then by the time my eyes are done burning from looking at the D tier, I wonder how in the fuck this is the same person. Then again, that's what happens when you're forced to throw all Innova. They have plenty of classics, don't get me wrong, but just like math, once you start adding random numbers and letters, I'm out that bitch. I was a fan before the Alphabetrians and Numbercons were friends, but I guess that's just me. Calvin did do a good job at explaining his discs, but when he gives me this monotone description, I'm gonna assume that you care more about the agates you're about to hunt than the discs in your bag. If you can't at least pretend to me that I should give a shit, then I'm not. And that's just Calvin, I know it is, which is why I didn't knock it too much. Mostly because whatever I say about these discs, Calvin will go out and destroy any course with a single 168 gram Roadrunner, so who cares what I have to say. Shout out to Drew for hooking me up with the tier list and suggesting I do this video. If you want to see more like it, all you gotta do is drop a like on this video. It's that simple. And if you want to be real awesome, maybe even smack that subscribe button. Or consider becoming a member for access to exclusive behind the scenes unfiltered content. And of course, supporting your boy. Oh yeah, and if you want to see what discs you should actually be bagging, check out the video right here.
Jesus Christ. Delius, catch! The crabs.
Hey! Holy shit!